Närmare där. Okej. Hej. Vi har inte vi har börjat. Hej. Hej. Kom. Bara äta det här. Det är inte för vi sitter, det är bara det är gott och vi vill rädda. Kolla på Eva Eyes har det så.
Evil eyes. It was quiet in the Nevada mountains, a road only used by the locals. The crashed car lay upside down like a dying tortoise as its engine sputtered to a stop. Shattered glass from the windshield speckled the road. Inside was movement. Someone was alive. His black boot kicked out the passenger window and slowly he pulled himself out. Bleeding from his forehead, he collapsed onto the road. Gasping for air, he rolled onto his back, staring up at the dark Nevada sky.
Jag tror inte några förstår inte engelska så vi kan ha text. Byts till svenska. Du gjorde rätt. Captions. Sen efter, tryck på English. Byt till svenska.
Blood dripping from his hands. He crawled towards the front of the car. It didn't look like he could stand as one leg was missing. His face peered in towards the driver's seat. His eyes widened. He grimaced. Concern overcame him. His arms quickly leaned in towards the trunk release button and with the click, the trunk opened. He crawled to the back of the car, dragging his one leg behind him. His eyes penetrated into the darkness of the trunk, and with his hand he reached in and pulled out two black crutches. Using one side of the car as a counterweight, he picked himself up onto his one foot. Still wobbly from the crash, he stumbled as he positioned the crutches under his arms. Dazed, his eyes fell upon a clearing lit by the moon. Then for a split second, he looked back to the mangled driver's seat of the car, just to double check he wasn't seeing things. Surely, no one else could have survived this. But the driver's seat lay empty, which meant someone had. He rushed through the forest, his panicked eyes darting everywhere. He had to find her. He had to find her before it was too late. Then, in the distance, he saw the light of a house. Safety. He crutch ran in its direction. As he got closer, his eyes landed on her. Stumbling ahead of him, she turned. Her lost and helpless eyes meeting his. Thank God he had found her. She opened her mouth to speak, but he lunged on top of her, wrapping his arms around her neck brutally as he tightened his grip, choking the life out of her. A few hours earlier, Charlotte Lewis had left work. She was exhausted. The hospital shift had gone on a lot longer than she had hoped, but she couldn't leave her patient until the next nurse came to work. And that nurse was always late. She knew to park under the streetlights because it was dark out, and the parking lot was always eerie. Charlotte had been following the local news and was well aware that women her age had been going missing. Even the police had come by her ward, distributing warnings to be extra vigilant and not to travel alone. She was not only cautious, but really smart and aware, and as she approached her car, she circled around it to make sure no one was hiding on the other side. She then fell to her knee, both tying her shoelace and just checking underneath that no one was under there. Before getting in, she even checked the back seat. It was clear with nowhere for anyone to hide. As she drove along the deserted road, she knew she'd never pick up a hitchhiker. She knew she'd never end up like the other vanishing girls. But what she didn't know was to keep an eye on the seat behind her. As she drove slowly and quietly, the back seat folded down. Determined and hateful eyes stared into the car from the trunk. Stealthily, a man with one leg wiggled out like a snake and sat behind her. Charlotte sensed something was wrong. Startled by the grinning, unbuckled man, she acted quickly, suddenly ramming the car. It was a split-second decision, but she didn't want to give him any upper hand. The crash was horrific, but somehow she'd survived. Her disoriented eyes scanned the car. She saw him in the back, still breathing. She was weak, but she had to get out of there. Catching her breath, her eyes latched onto a speck of light through the trees. It might have been nothing, but it was her only hope. As she started towards the light, she screamed in agonizing pain as her foot gave way. She hit the ground hard. Blood seeped out of her leg. Something metal and sharp from the car had lodged in it. Fighting the immense pain, she crawled over to a nearby fallen tree. She grasped for a thick, loose branch and used it to pull herself up onto her one good foot. The branch was like a long, pointed vampire stick. For a moment, she thought about going back to the car and using it, but her instincts told her to run like hell. She raced through the trees as quickly as she could, each step more painful than the last. If she could go get help and call the police, it would mean no more girls would go missing. Just then, she heard something behind her approaching quickly. She turned. The man with one leg lunged out, pushing her down. He wrapped his arms around her neck. Brutally, he tightened his grip and began choking the life out of her. She wasn't going to die easily, especially by him. She'd gone through a lot in her life, and tonight was the night he picked the wrong victim. She bit down hard, gnawing through his hand. He yelped like a little girl. Her teeth locked onto his face and she went wild. His nose, his ears, his eyes. Anything she could sink her teeth into. Anything she could bite until he released his grip and pushed her away.
Is that it? Is that all you've got?
For a moment, his hateful eyes stared her down. He was about to say something when she surged forward, thrusting the tip of the branch into his neck. His eyes widened in shock and horror as she pushed her momentum mercilessly up and down, ramming it in further. That night, only one person hopped away, and it wasn't the man with one leg.
Det här var läskigt.
Helene, akta som bara hämta vad du sa, vi måste städa. Lilla kackvardag.
Jag undrar om jag kommer åka självbil nu.
Det ska inte göra.
Hej då. Hejdå. Vi ses senare.